Hi, I'm Jeff Stokes. Welcome to Jeff's Daily Dose of Encouragement. Today I want to encourage you that we desperately need the gospel. Now, why I'm saying that is, well, it's true, but in the world that we live in today, we see and hear, we get to see it a lot more because of the news and stuff, and hear it a lot more about just lawlessness, really. Just lawlessness in the world and no respect for authority. I talked yesterday about the need for, we need God because we need authority over our lives. But just a total disrespect for anything, total lawlessness. People are out of control. And the thing is that in the society with us today, the way we think, when we look at it, we think, or can think, wow, the world's getting really bad now, and not realize that in antiquity things were just as bad, if not worse. And so it's been a perennial problem for mankind, and that's why we need the gospel. I've been reading Judges 19 this morning. It's a horrific story, really, of a Levite who had a concubine, and she took off and went to her father's house, and he decides to go and ask her to come back, and the father-in-law holds him there for days and days and days, and keeps encouraging him to stay and have fellowship because he really liked him. And so and then he decides one day he's going to go and take his concubine with him, and he goes to a city, goes to Jerusalem actually, funnily enough, on the way back to where he came from, and he had nowhere to lodge, so he sits in the street with his concubine and his asses and his servants, and waits, and an old guy comes along, and long story short says, yeah, you can come and stay with us, and I'll look after you. And they do. But at night there's these gangs, let's call it what it is. It says sons of Belial. These gangs go around houses, trying to break into houses, and actually they're not after the woman, they want the men. They're that sordid. They're into raping men. And it's a horrible situation. And the other side of the story is that the men in the house, because the old guy wants to protect the guy that's come and visited and esteems him higher, offers the concubine and his own daughter to these guys. So there wasn't even a thought for these guys these guys in their own house to stand up against this gang. I guess they didn't have a police force and things like that we have today, and even today people can't even trust the police to come and help them with a lot of things in some countries. Things have gotten that bad, they didn't think of sacrificing themselves. They sacrificed their daughters, and the woman got a bad rap in those days. But this is what happens when lawlessness prevails and people turn away from God. So we desperately in our society today, in order to avoid such things, need the gospel. We've got in our country, and it's happening in other countries too, we've got gangs of youths going around, robbing, burgling, aggravated robbery, stealing from stores and stuff like that, smash and grabs and ram raids and things. Among other things, crime is on the increase. But it's all because we need, and the other thing is that people generally aren't standing up against us. They expect the police to do it, but we need to stand and preach the gospel more. The gospel message is the answer to all of mankind's sin and all of mankind's issues that's going on now. So we desperately need the gospel. if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For whosoever shall confess that Jesus is the Son of God, God dwells in him and he in God. And if it didn't make matters worse, that priest, in order to set an example, in order to show the rest of Israel what had happened, he dismembered his concubine into 12 pieces and sent to 12 tribes of Israel to get them to consider what ought to be done to the people that had done this. He took matters into his own hands and got really serious and said, look, we've got a real problem here with what's going on in our nation. What are you going to do about it? And later on we read that they did. But you know, if that guy had done that today, he'd have been on some serious charges, and possibly would have been a suspect in her murder because he dismembered her. I mean, she turned up on the doorstep in the morning for death, and all the story says was he turned up and said, "Scott, get up, let's go." He didn't even consider what she'd been through. I mean, it was just horrendous. And if people get that hard, we're in real trouble. So we desperately need the gospel. God bless you. Have a great day.